Hello. So hey, sounds good. Test the mic 1 2. Test the mic 1 2. Test the mic 1 2. All right, let's roll. So hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Soji Gray, and welcome back to the Device Hub. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below so that anytime a new video is released, you're gonna be updated instantly. So I've been doing YouTube for about 3 years now, and I just wanted to share with you in this video my camera journey. I think the kind of camera you end up getting plays a role in how frequent or how easy you create content, right? So for me, it's been a very interesting journey. These days I get questions a lot like, hey Soji, I'm starting a YouTube channel, I'm starting a new YouTube channel, or I've been doing YouTube, but I want to upgrade my camera. What kind of camera should I buy? I'm new to YouTube, I need a good camera. What camera would you suggest? I do get a lot of questions, and I mean, I've suggested some good options to some friends that they eventually got that particular camera and they're really happy with it. So I just wanted to share this with you so that if you're starting a new YouTube channel or if you want to upgrade your camera, maybe this can actually help make you decide what you should go for. So, I mean, when I started my channel, I was pursuing quality. I wanted to have that MKBHD quality because I looked up to him and I'm always watching his content, and the way he talks about quality really inspired me to start something, but not start just raw, but start with, a good head start. So I wanted to get that really good quality in my videos. So I ended up going for the Canon T3i because that was what I could afford then, and I didn't know anything about cameras, but I heard that the Canon T3i was great at video. It was also very affordable. I didn't get it brand new. I got it for used. And when I started using this camera, I realized that this camera does not have autofocus. And usually I shoot alone. I don't shoot with anyone, with any assistant. So racking focus was actually a big issue for me. Usually I'd have to get a stick and try to use the stick to rack focus with that small screen to see whether I'm in focus or not, which most of the time did not work. And I think I had the 18 to 55 stock lens, or the default lens that comes with the camera, but I did save up some cash to buy the Canon 50mm f1.8, and that was what I was using at that time. And even though that lens, I don't have it here, it's actually on the camera now. Even though that lens had autofocus, because the camera did not have autofocus, it did not work at all. So it was very frustrating. But that led me to kind of make do with what I had. So with what I had, I was able to make some videos for a while, and I was able to save some cash, and that led me on to kind of try to get my second camera because I could not be using that Canon T3i for forever because it was very frustrating to use. So I did a lot of research, and I spoke to some friends, Quick Wilson, Lukman, he's a good photographer. I spoke to him and he was like, hey, I think you should consider Sony. Sony makes good autofocus cameras. And I was like, yo, that's actually a good idea. I can actually, try and get a Sony instead. And so I started looking around, and I checked what's it called, OLX, or it's now GG. So I checked OLX and I saw a Sony A5100, and I had to do a lot of research and reading. I watched videos, and I got to know that camera, which is a very smallish old camera, has great autofocus. So I went ahead and I bought that camera, and then it had the default lens, or the standard lens on it was the Sony 16 to 50. I think it's either 50 or 55. I think it's Sony 16 to 50 mm f3.5 to f5.6 lens, which was kind of good. And so I started using that, and I actually loved that camera. And so the first step I'm going to give someone who's going to start a YouTube channel or who wants to upgrade the camera, I think autofocus is a must-have if you're someone who is a loner. Like you're someone who shoots alone. If you don't have any assistants, you should get a camera that has autofocus, because at least once you come sit down, you set the camera and come sit down like I've done now, you can be confident enough that it's actually tracking your face and it's going to keep your face in focus. Because if your face is not in focus and is all blurred out, your viewers or your audience won't be able to connect with you on that personal level. And what's the point of having the channel? So does that. Unless you're doing like voiceover over like already pre-recorded footages, that is fine. But if you want to do like a talk like how I'm doing now, you need a camera that has autofocus. So let me just continue with the story. So I got the Sony, and this camera was amazing. The autofocus was great, and I loved it. So doing further research, I realized that you can actually get what's it called, an adapter, so that I can use the Canon 50mm f1.8 on the Sony. So after doing research, checking OLX again, I got lucky. I got the Viltrox adapter. But this adapter is a focal reducer. So what a focal reducer basically does is that if, for example, with the Canon 50mm has an aperture of f1.8, it can reduce or it can increase the aperture size to f1.3. So it's going to increase the aperture to allow more light in. And so from 1.8 to 1.3 means that you're going to get more shallow depth of field, which to me was great because at that time, and even still, the space I'm shooting in is actually small, but at that time, the space I was in was actually very small because that was actually my bedroom, and I was doing the YouTube thing, and I was living in that space. So it was kind of very clustered, I would say. So it was quite difficult, but then because of the Viltrox EF to E mount adapter, I was able to get some blurry shots, and my production quality was okay. It was beginning to rise, and I loved the quality. Around the time I started working with brands, so it made me save some money to get other gear. But I started having some issues with the Sony A5100. This is a very small camera, and Sony is known to have overheating issues a lot. And I think it started from their old camera. So with the A5100, I started to have a lot of overheating issues. The thing was that, in my room, I just had a fan, and this fan, you know how Ghana fan is. Sometimes over time, what happens is that the fan has a controller that goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. But once there's a fault, I don't know what happens. When you turn it to 2 or 3, it's still the same as 1. So you either send it to 5 or you leave it at 1. And once you send it to 5, this thing is so noisy that you can't actually record good audio when you're recording a video. So it was so frustrating because I have to put the fan off to make a video, and there'll be heat in the room. I'm going to sweat. The camera is also going to be hot. And so I'll end up recording for like 8 minutes, and then I'll start getting a sign on the viewfinder that the camera is overheating and will switch off soon. So if you'd realize in my old videos, I'll just have to rattle it out fast. So if I'm reviewing something, say I'm reviewing a phone, I'll just have to say, so this phone is this, and this, and I'll just rattling through because I knew that eventually this camera is going to shut down, and I would either have to wait for it to cool down and start the video and still go through the same process. So that was like that was the stress I was going through at that time. If I had air condition, probably it would not have been that extreme because the air condition is going to kind of cool the camera, cool me. I'm not going to sweat, and then the camera is not going to be very hot, and I'll be able to record for longer periods because the Sony A5100 has a limit at it records to 30 minutes and then it's going to cut, right? So I mean, I can just do like a good video in under 30 minutes, but the whole thing was that it was just overheating. And so I started doing more research, and I ended up getting a Canon. But prior to that, all the friends, all the YouTube friends, all the content creators that reached out to me and were asking me what kind of camera they should get, I recommended the Sony line because I loved the Sony line. It could just rack focus effortlessly. So if you want to like say show something to the camera, it will just focus on that. Once you take it out, it focuses on your face. And for an old camera, it was so great. And I love the fact that the A5100 was also very affordable. And at that time, you would not have gotten any Canon, right? Any Canon camera that had autofocus at the price I got the Sony for. And also the Sony a5100 was shooting, could shoot 60 frames per second in 1080p, which was a great thing, and it helped me a lot because once I'm doing B rolls, I kind of got the option to slow it down to have more cinematic, dramatic shots. Whereas if you had a camera that shot only 24 frames or 30 frames, you would be able to slow it down. If you slow it down, you'd see that it's going to be choppy, and no one wants a choppy slow motion footage. So the Sony had a lot of things going for it, but the only thing was the overheating. So I recommended the Sony a5100 to a ton of friends. In fact, I had two of the Sony a5100s. I ended up selling one to a friend, and yeah, it was so good. And I had other friends who were able to afford their higher end device, the higher end cameras, go for that, like the A6300 or the A6400. And to date, my friends who got the Sony cameras enjoy the cameras. So the main reason why I switched back to Canon was that I did not have the budget to get the Sony camera, like the Sony A6300 or the A6500. My budget was very limited because around that time I was working on other things. I had to get a laptop and stuff like that. So I mean, I just couldn't get a high end Sony camera because I am still a Sony fanboy, right? So what happened was that I actually decided to read on Canon. You know, Canon, I've read, has impressive skin tone, uh, and the cameras can actually last way longer. They don't have overheating issues. So all these positive things about Canon drew me closer to the Canon 77D, and at that time, that was what I was able to afford. So the Canon 77D can shoot 1080p at 24 frames, 30 frames, and 60 frames. So I normally like to shoot cameras that have 60 frames because it helps you do slow-mos if you want to do slow-mo. So, I mean, if you're looking for a good camera, if you want to start YouTube, especially if you're into vlogging and you want to do some cinematics, it would be very good to have a camera that can do 30, no, not 30, but 60 frames at least, and 1080 at 1080p. I mean, you're sorted out. Once you have something like that, you're good. In fact, the Sony a6300 can shoot 4K in 1080p and 120 frames per second in 1080p. What did I say? The Sony a6300 can shoot 4K and 4K in 60 frames. In fact, scratch that. I have to confirm that. I think the Sony a6300 can shoot 4K in 60 frames and 120 frames in 1080p, but I am not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong though, but I mean, that's a great camera. So if you're someone who's into vlogging and want to do some B-roll shots, you can actually slow down your footage to have this very smooth slow motion, in fact. So that led me to get the Canon 77D. I must say I love it so far. This is actually the box. I got the body only. When I was using the Canon T3i, I was able to get the Canon 28 to 135 millimeter. This is like a macro lens. This is one of the lenses I love the most because it helps me get close to the subject I'm shooting, and I'm able to get crispy shots with it. It's also very versatile from 28 to 135. That's a pretty big focal length to work with, and so I love it. It's pretty robust as well, and it has the USM system, which is the ultrasonic system, so it's not as noisy as the other lens systems. So this was the but it's actually a very very old Canon lens. But this was what I had with the Canon T3i, and so once I got the Canon 77D, I was using that as well. It's a great lens. I'll touch on the lenses later, but yeah. So that led me to get the Canon 77D, and I must say it's been very very good. Once I got it, I got a dummy battery because if the camera can't shoot that long, the only thing that kind of limits you now is the battery. And the Canon 77D does not really have a good battery life when you're doing video. So I had the option of buying multiple batteries or getting a dummy battery. With the dummy battery, all you need to do is it's a cable system. You plug it into the camera, and then you can connect the other end is a USB, where you can connect it to a power bank or to an adapter and plug it so that you just have unlimited charging or unlimited shooting throughout, which is very convenient. So I got the dummy battery from AliExpress, and I'd advise that if you're someone who does a lot of indoor shoots, sit down shoots, you should get a dummy battery for your camera. Even the Sony A5100 has a dummy battery, so it's gonna really make your workflow very easy. You don't have to swap batteries. You don't have to worry about the camera getting low battery. It's pretty cool. So yes, so as I got the Canon 770D, the wide, I wanted a wide angle lens to kind of mimic the look I had on the Sony, because on the Sony A5100 I had the 16 to 50, and when I'm shooting at 16, which was very wide, it made my shots look very very appealing because I felt I was close to the audience when I'm talking. So I did a lot of research and I was able to get the Canon EFS 10 to 22 millimeter. This is actually a very wide lens, and I can actually have the lens this close and it will still it will show my whole head and shoulder, even a bit of my chest this close. So it is that good. I really love this because also if you want to do vlogs, you can actually hold the camera system without even putting it on a tripod or anything and talk directly into the camera, and it would show a very big, surface area of what you're actually doing, which is very good. So that is what I like about this Canon 10 to 22 millimeter. It's also a USM lens, so there's no focus noise when you're actually racking focus or something. And this lens does not actually extend; it's actually inbuilt, so you can switch the focal length from 10 millimeter to 22 millimeter, but it's still the same. Now this really helps when you are kind of packing stuff into your camera bag. You don't have to you are not bothered with space because it's very compact basically. So that is why I love this lens. Also, I have the Canon 50 f1.8. I feel that is a standard lens if you are starting YouTube and you're on a budget. This is a nifty 50. It's kind of a must-have if you're new, if you're getting started with photography or videography. This is your go-to lens, and it's something I've been using for a very long time. Since I started my YouTube journey, that is my most reliable lens. It looks good, especially if you bring it to the ideal range. You have that butter background, or if you have like a lot of depth in your background. If you're further away from the background, it is able to blur it out and give you that blurry professional look at a very affordable price. And so that is why I love this lens. It's not as durable as these ones or as other options, but then I mean it's very affordable. And if you're someone who takes good care of your gear, you would not have to worry about damaging this. So yep, that has been my camera journey. I started from the Canon T3i, and the issue I had was focusing problem, and then I switched to a camera that was good with focusing but had heating issues, and now I have a camera that does not have heating issues, has a good autofocus system, and shoots 60 frames. So what are my final words for people who want to start YouTube and want a good camera, or people who want to upgrade your camera? I'd say get something that has a bigger battery. If it doesn't have a bigger battery, don't worry. You can get a dummy battery. You can just type the model number of your camera and add a dummy battery on AliExpress or Amazon. You have a ton of options to choose from. Also, get a camera that can actually maybe do 1080p at 60 frames just to make it future proof. Having 4K is a plus, but I don't really recommend getting a 4K camera, because if you're shooting 4K, you need to have an editing machine, or your laptop needs to have that capability to edit 4K. So if you're able to sort both out, fine. But if you do not have a laptop that can edit 4K, I advise that you still, go for a camera that shoots 1080p. There's nothing wrong with 1080p. 1080p is still going to be relevant for a couple of years, and hopefully you can upgrade once you have the budget to upgrade your laptop. And yes, and I think, yeah, what else do I need to say? Also, I feel I enjoy Canon because they have a wide range of lens systems that are pretty affordable and easy to get. As compared to Sony, Sony has a very expensive camera system. So their lenses are pretty expensive as compared to the budget Canon lenses. And so if you want a reliable camera system or a reliable lens system, I think you should go for the Canon. However, if you're someone who is comfortable with using an adapter, like how I use the Viltrox adapter, you can go for the Sony, get the Sony body, and then get an adapter so that you can adapt all these Canon lenses onto the Sony body system. So I just hope you found this video helpful. I want to start doing more of these videos where I talk about my journey when it comes to the gear I use when creating YouTube videos. So if you like this, I can do more videos on the kind of audio systems I use, the kind of lighting systems I use, and how I actually set up or create the set I sit in to make my videos. If you did enjoy this video, leave a like down below and hit the subscribe button if you're new here. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Stay blessed.